Hi folks, this is Karim Rao from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert lab. This is the video number 29. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. I've been continue working with the Windows 10 security technical implementation guide. Okay, this is some recommendations by the Department of Defense and the Defense Information System Agency of the United States to secure your Windows 10. So how to secure your Windows 10? There is a lot of recommendations and best practices to do. Some of them can be applied using a group policy, and some of them are applied physically on a machine or on the device. So we have been working now for about 12 videos. This is the video number 13. We have stopped at this recommendation, which is called user account control approval mode for built-in administrator must be enabled. So what is user account control? We will discuss this now. In brief, it is a security mechanism for limiting the elevation of privileges, including administrative accounts, unless authorized. This setting configures the built-in administrator account so it runs in admin approval mode. So what is the user account control? I can show you how does it work, or let's see how does it looks like. If you can see here, this is how the user account control appears. So if you run any program or there is any change done to the system, this window pop-ups asking you if you are the administrator, so it will pass, okay, and or it will not ask you for a username or a password. So for example, if you are running a program or making a critical change in the system, if you are not the administrator, this window will pop up from the user account control. Okay, it will ask you to provide a username or password to change, for example, the registry or to open the registry. This is the one if you are not an administrator. So what about if you are an administrator? It will give you different one. It will ask you if you are really or you really like to run this program. So for example, if you run a program or if you make a change in the system that will critically affect it, it will ask you, do you need to run the program? Are you sure you want to run the program? Okay, so tell him yes or no. So this is basically, or it appears only when there is a critical change or a critical change that you will do in the system that will affect it. So this is basically what is the user account control. But we have here a little bit of something or a URL that's talking in brief about, or is talking in specific about the user account control. Okay, it is said it was launched from Windows Vista. Okay, the feature has been improved in the upcoming versions of Windows 10, Windows 7, Windows 8.1. So they are all, this feature is improved a lot, okay? And most of us choose to disable it, but actually it is very, very useful one. So let's have some discussion about this feature. It is shortly a security feature of Windows, but will help prevent unauthorized changes to the operating system. So if there is any change to the operating system, critical change to the operating system, this feature will pop up or will ask you if you are authorized to do this change, and if you are not authorized, it will ask about a username and the password that is authorized to make the change. And if you are the authorized person, it will warn you that this change will affect the system. So for example, changes only approval from the administrator. So changes to the system should be approved by the local administrator or the domain admin. Okay, so if these changes are not approved by the administrator, they will not be executed and Windows remains unchanged. Okay, UAC was first available in Windows Vista and it was improved. How does a user control prompt look and what does it share and request? When you double click a file, a setting or an app that is about to make important changes to Windows, take good look about this line, important changes to Windows. You are shown a user account control prompt. I have shown you all what is the user account control prompt. This is one, or the other one. Okay, the other one that asks for a username or a password. Let's go there. Okay, in prompts like screenshot you can see UAC anyway, so I have shown you the screenshot, the UAC prompt displays the name of the program. Okay, you can see here that there is the name of the program. Okay, and it will it's about to make change, so it's saying that it will display the name of the program that will make changes to the system, and that require the approval of the administrator. Okay, if you are not the administrator, it prompts you for a username and the password. The publisher of that program, so the name of the program, the publisher of the program, the file origin, where it runs from or where it comes from if you are trying to run a file. This especially if you are trying to run a file in a certain location. All it needs from the administrator is a click or tap on yes. So if you are the administrator, it will give you this message and you need only to tell him yes. Okay, you can tell him to show details, to give you details about the file, the program, the publisher, and the location of the file. Okay, so anyway, so you can tell him to yes, run the program, or no. If you are not administrator, it will ask you for a username and a password. I have shown you all something like this. This is the one. If you close it, this one, it will ask you, if you're not the administrator, it will ask you about a username and a password. Okay, so this is also done. Let's show more details. If you click on it, you see more information, including the exact location on the disk, exact location of this program on the disk, or the program, or the file, the publisher certificate. It will show you more info. Okay, if you click on more info, how do I know that the file or setting will trigger a UAC prompt? Files that trigger UAC prompt when run have the UAC symbol on the bottom corner of their file icon, similar to this. So how I know that when I run a program or when I run a file, it will prompt or it will display the user access control window? If you see any program and this icon beside it, if you have a program and you have this icon beside it, or a file and this icon beside it, this means that it will prompt you for a user account control, or it will prompt you, or it will display the user account control window. So this is how you can know this. Okay, and let's see here. Let's go and continue. How does it work? Okay, in Windows, applications run by default without any administrative permissions. So any Windows application will run without the UAC. So the UAC will not be displayed for any programs that are included with the Windows. What about this application? Something like the WordPad, the Notepad, the software included in the Windows. It doesn't need administrative permission, so it doesn't need the local administrator to authorize it to run, or it doesn't run. It doesn't need the administrative rights to run or to work. So it will work with any user. Okay, they have the same permissions as a standard user account. They cannot make any changes to the operating system, its system files, or registry settings. So any Windows application will run under any user. It doesn't need special rights to run, or it doesn't need the administrative right to run. And actually these programs, users or standard users cannot change it. They can only run it. Okay, but without the permission of the administrator. Okay, this is normal. Okay, so when application here, this is for the Windows application. When application wants to make, and this application or the Windows application, it doesn't make changes in the system. So for example, if you need to run Windows Media Player or to run the Notepad or the WordPad, this will not make change in the system. So what about if you need to open the registry? This is a Windows application. Okay, this is a change in the system. So he will ask you, or he will prompt you. Okay, this will affect system changes, like affecting other accounts. If you play with the registry, it will affect the system. So this is one of the major changes. So the UAC should be prompted here. Installation of a new software, this is a change in the system. Okay, so here the UAC should be prompted. So the UAC will appear when there is a critical change in the system. Okay, so it will ask you to run, or it will give you a warning that it is running something that will affect the system. If you are an administrator, you tell him yes, okay, go ahead, I need to install this software. If you are not an administrator, you need to or you should provide the password and the username of the administrator to allow this software or this change to happen. So there are many changes that may require administrative privileges. This is the one that I'm talking about. The critical changes need administrative privileges. Depending on how UAC is configured, they can cause a UAC prompt to show up and ask for permission. These are the following. For example, one of the major changes, or these are the situations that the UAC may be or it will be displayed. Running an app as administrator, changes to system-wide setting or files in the Windows or program files folder, install and uninstall drivers and application, viewing or changing another user's folders and files, okay, adding or removing accounts, Windows user accounts, configuring Windows updates, changing to Windows firewall, okay, changing the UAC itself setting, so you can disable the UAC or the user access control window to appear. This is also a major change. Changing a user account type, you can change it from standard user to an administrator. This also need privileges. Running a task, okay, restoring backup system files, changing system date and time, configure parent controls or family safety for safe browsing of internet, installing ActiveX controls. So these are most of the situations that the UAC window will appear or it will be displayed. Okay, what is the difference between UAC levels in Windows? So here it will talk in details about the UAC, the levels of UAC. Okay, we know that there is some levels or some options when you configure the user access control. You can turn it off or on. Okay, you have four types of, or 4 options in the UAC. Always notify. So at this level you are notified before applications and users make changes that require administrative permissions. Okay, so for example, if I need to install a software, I will be always notified by the UAC that you need the permission of the administrator to install this software, or if you are the administrator, it will give you a notification that you are installing a software that will make changes to the system. When a UAC shows up, the desktop is dimmed. You cannot access the desktop. You are only allowed to access the UAC window. Okay, you must choose yes or no before you do anything else on the computer. Security impact. This is the most secure setting and the most annoying. If you do not like the UAC implementation for Windows Vista, you would not like this level. Anyway, so this is always notification. Notify me only when programs or apps try to make changes to my computer. Okay, so always notify. This is the default. This is not the default one. Okay, this is the default one. In this level, the UAC notifies you only before programs make changes that require administrative permissions. If you manually make changes to Windows, then a UAC prompt is not shown. So here he is concentrating on only programs that will make changes to the system. But if you make changes to the Windows or the system itself, for example by opening the registry and playing with the registry, UAC will not be shown. So it will only be shown when you install a software that make a change to the operating system. This level is less annoying. It does not stop the user from making changes to the system. It only shows prompt if an app or file wants to make changes, okay, to the system. But you can change the system by not installing software. You can change it, for example, from the registry. You can change some setting like the system time or date. This is done without a program. You can just click and change it. So the desktop is dimmed. We say it is disabled until you accept or refuse the UAC or UAC window. Okay, yes or no. Okay, security impact is less secure than the first setting because malicious programs can be created to simulate the keystrokes or mouse movements made by a user and change Windows setting. So for example, there is a kind of malware that it is installed on the system. It will record your keystrokes or the keyboard keys that you click on and the mouse movements, and then they can simulate it or they can reproduce it again and infect the system and change the Windows setting. If you are choosing a good security option, such situations should not occur. So always notify could be the first or could be the most secure one, but let's see the other options. Notify me only when programs and apps try to make changes to my computer. Do not dim my desktop. So the other two options, when the UAC or the user access control window appears, the desktop will be dimmed. You will not be able to access your desktop, okay, or do anything until you accept or until you deal with the UAC prompt by yes or no. So this option, it will notify you when a program make changes to your system, but it will not dim the desktop, so you can still access the desktop even though the UAC window is appearing. So this level is identical to the previous, except the fact that when UAC is shown, desktop is not dimmed and other desktop applications can interfere with it. So you can, for example, when this window appear, you can open other software and work normally, okay? So this will not interrupt your work. This level is even less secure, as it makes it even easier for malicious programs to simulate keystrokes or mouse moves that interfere with the UAC prompt. So here we can see from these options that the most secure one is always notify, okay? Never notify, this is to turn off the UAC completely. It does not offer any protection against unauthorized system changes. Security impact: if you do not have a good security suite, you are very likely to encounter security issues with your Windows device. With UAC turned off, it's much easier malicious programs to infect Windows and take control. So this is briefly what we are talking about the UAC. We will have a lot of recommendations about using the UAC. So the first recommendation is to make approval mode for the built-in administrator. So what we mean by this, we mean that the user access control will not ask the administrator for credentials, so it is automatically approved. So the administrator is the highest user, or is the most highest privileged user in the system, so the UA access control will not prompt him for his username and password. Okay, so the administrator will be approved by default, or it will be bypassed by the user access control. It will not ask for his credentials. But if there is any program or any critical change to the system done by this local administrator, he will prompt him that it is dangerous, or should I allow the program or not, yes or no. It will not ask him from his credentials. So this is the user account control approval mode for the built-in administrator. This setting configures built-in administrator account, so it runs in admin approval mode. Okay, admin approval mode, so it is approved. It will not ask for a username or a password. Okay, so we can do this, okay, from the registry, from this pass, or we can configure it using a group policy. I will show you all how we can do this from a group policy perspective. So let's see first if we have this already implemented or not. Let's see here. So here we can go to the registry and see the path. Here you can navigate through the registry from the search box. Here we can see that I can just click on the URL or copy the path and put it here in the search box and press enter. Filter administrative token. It is already 0, so that means that I have this option disabled. So I need to enable it. Okay, I can enable it by changing the registry key value from 0 to 1, or I can go and change it from the group policy itself. So here we can see that user access or user control access control admin approval mode for the built-in administrator account, so it is enabled. Here we can see the other recommendation: user account control must at minimum prompt administrators for consistent on the secure desktop. Is a mechanism, okay, including setting configures the elevation requirements for logged on administrators to complete tasks that requires rest. So let's see what is consist on secure. Let's say search. Let's go and UAC consent on secure desktop. So let's go here. Okay, prompt for contest on secure desktop. A UAC prompt will appear on the secure desktop with the yes and no buttons. Prompt from credentials. The user will be prompted to enter a username and the password of an administrative account. The must enter valid credentials. The screen mode would be dimmed. So what is UAC secure? Let's go here. What is prompt for consistent secure desktop? Here, this is the one that we need to see here. This is the default when an operation of a non-Microsoft application, a third-party software, requires elevation of the privilege. The user is prompted on the secure desktop to select permit or deny. If the user selects permit, the operation continues with the user's highest available privilege. So here, this is something like this. This is what we mean by secure. Here, this is the image. This is the one for consistent. This is the one, okay? This is the one. This is what you are talking about. Here, it will prompt you for something like this. If there is a non-Microsoft application running and it will make critical change to the system, it should give you something like this. So I think this is the option that you are talking about. 2. This setting configures the elevation requirements for logged on administrators to complete a task that required raised elevation. So here he will not continue the task unless the administrator approves, okay, the task. I think this is it. Prompt administrator for consistent on the secure desktop. So I think this is what he means by this. To prompt this window. Anyway, we will open the option. Open system prompt for, not this one, prompt for consistent. So let's continue. Not running approval, switch to secure. So let's see here, it is, let's go to the group policy. First of all, let's see if it is already in the registry. So, or if we have this already activated. Consistent behavior, consistent prompt behavior, it is 2. Here it is 5 in my registry, so this means that it should be modified. Okay, so we need to prompt behavior for admin. We need to tell him prompt for approval. Okay, this is the one. Should be not 5, it should be 2. Okay, so let's configure this from the group policy. Behavior of elevation prompt for administrators in admin approval mode. Okay, so I think it just give him a warning. It will give him a warning that you should take care, because this is a major change in the system. So elevate without prompting. Here we can prompt for credentials or prompt for consistent on the secure desktop. Okay, this is the one that we should configure. And then here he's saying the other recommendation. Windows 10 must use multi-factor authentication for local and network access to privilege and non-privileged accounts. So we all know what is a multi-factor authenticator or authentication. For example, when you try to access, this is happened by Google. If you try to access your Google account email, he will send you a code on your mobile, and you should provide it to go or to continue working with your account. So for example, if you go to the Gmail account, you provide your username and password, he will not get you to your email, or will not let you access your email unless you provide a code he sent you on your mobile, and put this code or provide this code to Google. So there is 2 ways of authentication or verification. First of all, you need to put your username and password, and then the Google server or the Google company will send you a code on your mobile, a code number. You should provide it, and then after that you could access your email or access your account. So this is a multi-factor authentication. He's saying that you should have this. So how we can have multi-factor authentication? You can have, for example, username and password, and then you can have your fingerprint, okay, or you could have facial recognition, or you could have the way that Google works with. For example, if you need to access your Windows 10 PC, you should provide a username and password and the mobile code, or a code sent to your mobile, for example. This could be done. So you should use two types of authentication, so you do not depend on username and password only. You should have another, or you should have another way of authentication, and it works side by side by the first authentication method. So let's see how can we do this. So for example, here is saying a recommendation that this could be something like a PIN, cryptographic identification device, like a token, or let's see, like a smart card, or biometric, something like the fingerprint. Okay, and he's saying that if one of these, for example, if you are working with the username and the password, and for example with your fingerprint, if the fingerprint fails, then you can access with username and password, so they can work together, okay, to let you access your device. And if one of them fails, it will return, or it will work with the username and password. Okay, so here he's saying that all domain accounts must be enabled for multi-factor authentication, with the exception of local emergency accounts. Okay, having two or more factors to achieve authentication: PIN or password, token, biometric. A privileged account is defined as information system account with authorizations of a privileged user. Anyway, so he is saying, or he recommends, that you should have two type of authentications, okay, to use it both, not to use only one method of authentication. So this is double layer of security. So you will not access your machine even if you provided your username or password. You should provide, for example, your fingerprint. You should provide your face, or you should have a facial recognition device, or something like this. So this is one of the things to add double layers of security, not to depend on your username and password as a way of authenticating yourself to the domain. If the system is a member of a domain, this is not applicable. What's saying here? If the system is a member of a domain, this is not applicable. So for non-domain joined system, configuring Windows Hello for sign-on options would be suggested based on the organization needs and capabilities. So if the system is a member of a domain, this is not applicable. So we have a lot of things applicable in a domain. Anyway, I think you can use double layer, or you can work with two ways of authentication. So this can be done. And if you are not in a domain, so you can use Windows Hello. This is a way of authentication by sending you a code to your mobile to provide it to access your machine, side by side, of course, with the username and password. So this is one of the recommendations. So he's saying that user access control must automatically deny elevation for standard users. So here we know that the user account control will display a window, okay, asking you to provide your username or password if you are not the administrator. So for example, if you try to run a program and you are a standard user, the UAC, and this program will do a critical change to the system, or you are trying to install a software that will make a critical change to the system and you are not the administrator, a window will be displayed asking for username and password. Okay, this is called elevation. So you are a normal user and you should have administrative rights to run this program. So here we should deny elevation, or we should not do this step for the user. Why? For the normal user. Why we don't need such a window to appear for the standard user? So this will help the hacker. So for example, if you have this option to open, a hacker can simply hack a standard user account, and then through this account he can hack the machine by this window. So he, for example, let's have a situation. For example, he hacked a machine, and the machine, he already knew the password of the admin, okay, of the administrator, so he can use it through the standard user account. So it is not here saying that denying request for standard user accounts requires tasks that need to elevation. Okay, this ensures correct accounts are used on the system for privileged tasks to help mitigate credential theft. So it is saying that you should not do this. So for example, if you are administrator and for example, let's have a situation, if a standard user log into a machine and then he try to run a software, he will be prompted to provide a username and a password. So he called you to put your username and password to run the software, and you have done this. This is a very wrong thing, because the hacker can hack the standard user account for this user, and he will know his password, and he will know your administrator password. So this is not a good thing to do. We need to disable elevation. So if a standard user try to run a software, it will not run. Okay, it will tell him you are not the administrator, it will not run. But if we didn't do this, it will ask him for a username and password. So the default or the most secure option is to deny or to give him an error if the standard user tried to run. Just a moment. So let's continue, guys. Here we need to make sure that any standard user will not be prompted to provide administrator account password or username. Okay, this will help the hacker to know your username and password as an administrator. So we need to disable deny, or we need to deny elevation requests for standard users. So we need to do this. We will do it through the registry or through a group policy. So we need to go here to see consistent prompted behavior user. It is option E3. Let's see here in the registry or in the recommendation, it is 0. So we need to tell him to automatically deny elevation request. Okay, so here will automatically deny elevation for standard users. Okay, so we need to do this for standard users. Then here is another thing. Here, user account control must be configured to detect application installations and prompt it for elevation. So this is normal. The user account control should be aware if any program is trying to be installed, or if you are trying to install a software, he should prompt you for elevation. Okay, but this elevation, we have disabled the elevation for the user. So I think here he means that it should detect the application installation. Okay, and if you are a standard user, it will give you an error that you are not authorized to do this, or if you are an administrator, it will give you a warning saying that this program is making some changes to the system. Do you approve this as an administrator? So this is it. So I think it will not prompt it for elevation because we have disabled this before. We need to, here he mean prompt it for elevation. He will prepare you to install the software, not by providing a username or password. So I think this is what he's talking about. He requires request by prompting for credentials. Windows to respond. This setting requires Windows to respond to application installation request by prompting for credentials. I think this is not correct. It should, if you are administrator, it should give you only a warning. It will not prompt you for a username or a password. If you are a standard user, it will deny you completely. It will give you an error. So I think this is not correct. So let's see. Here it will say detect application control and prompt it for elevation, because this is opposite of what we have done previously on the normal user. So here let's say enable trust, enable installer detection. So it is one, we have already enabled it. So I think this is different. Anyway, so tell him enable, and then we will continue. User control must only elevate UE access applications that are installed in secure locations. Here is saying that will only allow Windows to only allow applications installed in a secure location on the file system, such as program files on Windows program files folder or Windows System 32 folders to run without elevated privileges. So what we mean by this? We mean by this that any programs that are in the folder of program files or in the System 32 folder, they will run without administrative rights. So a standard users can run programs in the program files and in Windows 32 system folder without the need of a username and a password. And these are secure locations. It means that the program files and System 32 are trusted programs and they are secure. So we don't need to elevate, or we don't need the UAC to ask for a username and the password when we run programs from these two locations. So we need to this make exception. Programs or applications in program files or Windows System 32 folders should run without any issues, even without a warning. Okay, so you will not be prompted for credentials or for warning, okay, because they are, I think, software that in a secure location. Anyway, so we will do this. We need to enable this option. So let's see here if it's already enabled in the registry. Enable secure UA path. It is 1. I think here it is 1. So we have it already in action, or it is already there. How we can enable it? We will enable it through the group policy from this option. So only elevate UA applications. This is it. We need to enable it. Okay. And then here we see the other recommendation. User account control must run all administrators in admin approval mode, enabling UAC. So this setting enables UAC. User access control must run all administrators in admin approval mode, enabling UAC. So he's saying that all of the administrators should have or should be not asked for credentials because they are the highest privileged users in the system. Okay, so I think what he's talking about, to run all administrators in admin approval mode. Let's see here what is UAC admin approval mode. UAC admin approval mode. Let's see here what he's talking about here. What is UAC admin approval mode? When an admin approval mode is enabled, the local administrator account functions like a standard user account, but it has the ability to elevate privileges without logging on by using a different account. By default, admin approval mode is set to disabled. So this is correct. We should disable this kind of option. Disable admin approval mode. He is saying, I think you want to enable it. No, I think you need to disable it. So this is one of the things actually. Must run. I think this should be disabled, not enabled. Okay, because this will ask for, or it will tell the administrator to elevate. Okay, run all administrators in admin approval mode. I don't know. Actually, it is a little bit confusing, but let's see here what he is talking about here. Admin approval mode to enable. Admin approval mode. So here I need to check my default domain policy. Here I have this kind of options already configured in my default domain policy. So this is the Windows 10 hardening group policy. I have my default domain policy. Let's see if these options are already enabled. I think I have it already enabled, but with different configuration. Let's see if I go to the security setting, and then we need to go to the local policies. I think, yes, security options, and then we need to go to these admin approval mode. Here we can see that for built-in it is disabled, so I am correct, it is disabled. So the admin approval mode for built-in administrators is disabled. Okay, you are not prompted to provide a username or a password. This is disabled by default. UAC is disabled. Run all administrators in admin approval mode is disabled. So this is disabled and the admin approval mode is disabled. So both are disabled. Okay, this is correct. I am correct. So they are disabled. Okay, prompt for elevation with secure. Okay, I think this is behavior prompt for consistent anyway, so we need to disable it. Okay, I don't need this. So we can see here that we have, if you see the user access control setting here, we can see, or the group policies here, for example, admin approval mode for the built-in administrator is disabled. Allow UAC application to prompt is disabled. Okay, I think this is correct. So let's work with this one, guys. Do not work with the PDF of the Department of Defense. Anyway, I think it will have some issues, so you need to take care when you apply this kind of settings to try it at home, or to try it in your environment, in a virtual environment. Okay, so we will continue working. So let's continue here. Account, or the other recommendation, user account control must virtualize file and registry write failures to pre-user's location. Here is saying that this setting configures non-UAC compliant applications to run in a virtualized file and registry entries in per user location, allowing them to run. So there is some software, okay, that does not work with the UAC, so it's not compatible with the UAC. So there is some software that could not run, or it's not compatible with the UAC mechanism. So if these programs are there, they should run in a virtualized environment, okay, per user. This is more secure, because if your program is not compatible with the user account control, it will run in a virtualized environment, and this will help it. If it is a virus, it will be contaminated, so you need to run any non-compliant programs with the UAC to run it in a virtualized environment. Okay, must virtualize file and registry writes failure to per users location. So here, if there is some programs that will not work with the user account control mechanism, they should be run in a virtualized environment, so it can be contaminated. If it is a virus, it will be contaminated. So let's see, and this is per user location, so it is per user location, it is a per user. So let's see if we have this kind of option enabled. So let's go and see it from the registry. I need to take care of to have a look on the time. Let's see how much time we have. So we have 42 minutes. Okay, we still have time. So we need to virtualize non-compliant software with the UAC to run in a virtualized environment. Let's see here, it is enable virtualization. Let's see the recommendation here. Here is the group policy, and enable virtualization, it is 1. Okay, then the next recommendation, passwords for enable local accounts must be changed at least every 60 days. So the local administrator account should have his password changed every 60 days. Okay, so the local administrator account should be changed every 60 days. This can be done manually. Okay, so you can do this. You can change the local administrator account manually every 60 days, or you can use a solution called Microsoft Labs, or local administrator password change. It is a software, it is an automated tool that will change all of the local administrator passwords automatically every 30 days, for example, or every 60 days. So you can use it and it will change it automatically, and every local administrator on every machine will have a unique password different from the other local administrator on another machine. So this is a very good tool and a very good recommendation, because someone can gain unauthorized knowledge of the password. So if, for example, if you change the password every 60 days, or if you change it once and you didn't change it, for example, if you set it once and you didn't change it, the hacker can gain access to the machine. But if your local administrator password it is changed frequently, this will minimize the risk of your password to be exposed or exposure. So we have already discussed before what is the Microsoft local account password change. Okay, and you should set it to 30 days. Okay, so here we can see we can run a PowerShell script to get the local users on a machine that their password will expire in a certain amount of time. So here we can get this command will get all of the local users on a machine, and it will display also the expired time of their password. So if you run this command on our POW workstation, so right click and then run as administrator, and then we should right click and then just run the program or run the command. Here it gives us all of the users, local users on the machine, so we can see when the password expire date will be. So for example, here we can see there is no password last set. Okay, last set date means the last time that I have put the password, and there is no password expire here field. So let's go, for example, to one of the users. We can go further. Let me show you all one of the users and their password expire date. This is password expires. Here we can see that the password will expire at 27/11/2021, and it was set at 29/08/2021. So this was in I think it's October. I think this was in August. Okay, so this password was set in August and it will expire in November. So we need to take care that we have about 3 months. Okay, it will expire in 8, 9 to about 60, and it is 90 days. So the expire date will be 90 days. This is not good. We need to set it for 60 days. Okay, so this can be done using a group policy to let your expire password dates to be duration to be 60 days, not 90 days. Okay, so we need to take care to change this password, because here now I am recording this video at September. Okay, September, so we have about 1 month left. Okay, so we need to take care to make it not 30 days to be 60 days, not 90 days. So we can see the expire date, and we will use the Microsoft Labs or local administrator password solution to change the local administrator passwords automatically on all of the machines in the domain. So we need to do this. So here we can see a lot of useful info: last login, password last set, password expire, password changeable date. So if you have changed the password before the expire date, this is also recorded, and there is an explanation for every local account on the machine. So this is for the local accounts. For the Active Directory, we have already a group policy to set the password parameters: expire date, the way it is written. The password should be complex, for example, not simple one. Toast notifications to the lock screen must be turned off. What is toast notification? Let's see here also what is the meaning of toast. Toast notification Windows 10. Let's see what we mean by this name. What is Windows toast notification? It is a message used to display the information fast, and an application can construct and deliver to the user is not currently using the apps. So a message used to display information fast, and an app can construct and deliver to the user is not currently using the application. Let's see what we mean by toast. If we can have a look or have something about, yes, this is the toast. Okay, for example, this is the toast. You know, if you have, for example, your application is closed, he can give you a notification. This is what is called toast notification. It's very known thing to give you. If, for example, if you have unionized your application, and there is a change in this application, a notification will not be displayed. This is a toast notification. Something like when your application is closed, you cannot get any notification from the program, so the Windows will give you a notification. This is something called toast notification. Okay, so what he's saying here, he's saying that toast notification to the lock screen must be turned off. So you should not receive this kind of notifications when your PC is locked or your screensaver is working. Toast notification displayed on the lock screen could display sensitive information to unauthorized personnel. So, for example, if this toast notification appear, it will disable the screensaver, or it will display info that should not be displayed to users. Okay, turning off this feature will limit access to information to a logged on user. Anyway, so we should disable toast notifications. Okay, this is one, especially when the lock screen is running. Okay, so this is only when the lock screen is running, so, or your screensaver is running. The toast notification should not be displayed, because if he display this notification, then the desktop will appear, the icons will appear, your work will be exposed to any user. Okay, so we need to do this. We need to disable the toast notifications. Okay, on the lock screen it should be enabled, and this is the path in the registry. So let's see here, this is the path, and let's see if it is already enabled or not. So let's see here. I think here I am just putting the path and press enter, but just to make sure. Okay, and then press enter. Let's see if we have this option enabled anyway. So I think I don't have it enabled. Internet settings, current version. I think I don't have the path already. Anyway, so we need to enable a group policy to turn off toast notification. Okay, when the lock screen is working. So this is, or actually another thing, the toast notifications, it is important messages about the system, so it should not be displayed when the lock screen is working, because this means that any user could know any important information about my PC even though it is locked. So this should only be displayed for the user that is currently on the machine and the machine is opened. It should not be available for any user when I am locking the PC. So any important info should not be displayed when the PC is locked. Okay, so this is one of the things also. So let's see how we can enable it. I think it is paused, maybe. Yes, it is paused. So turn off notifications. Let's see here, turn off toast notifications. Let's see here, it is turn off toast notifications. So where it is, I think it is in maybe not computer setting, maybe in the user. So it is user configuration, not computer configuration. This is the part concerning the user in the group policy. So let's go and open it, administrative templates, and then startup and taskbar, I think. And then we open the notifications. I think here turn off, not this one, notification, and then yes, turn off toast notification. This is will enable it. Okay, so this is one. And then zone information must be preserved when saving attachments. So we all know that when we have in Internet Explorer, there is something called zones. Zones, here he is defining the data according to the location that you are downloading this data from. So for example, if you have downloaded the file, you download it from the internet, okay, a website on the internet, or intranet, an internal website in your network, or a local, this is run from the machine itself. You opened a file from your machine locally, or restricted. So these are all the kind of types, or the zones, the origin of the file. If it's from the internet, website on the internet, website from the intranet, from a local machine, a file on a local machine, restricted, maybe restricted, this is some things are not allowed. So here is saying that preserving zone of origin, internet, intranet, local, restricted, on file attachments maybe from the internet, through the email, allows Windows to determine the risk. So let's see how this policy, I think it is referring to the Internet Explorer, because this is the only one that is doing this kind of setting. So let's see. No, this is attachment, so this is in general, okay, it's not in the Internet Explorer, this is in general. If you download any file, okay, from anywhere on the Windows operating system, the Windows preserve the zone. So if, for example, you've downloaded the file from the internet, the Windows will know it is from the internet. If you have downloaded a file from the intranet, it will know it is from the intranet. So this is something like a tag, to tag the files, to know their location, from where they are originated, okay. So here anyway, let's see, this is a very useful one, to know if these files are from the internet or from local machine, to know the source of the file. So this is one good thing to do. It's not related to the Internet Explorer, it is related to the Windows itself. So let's see if we have this option enabled or not. So this is a very useful thing, to know the origin of the file or the application. But he is saying especially file attachments. These file attachments, this could be a source of programs. You are downloading a program or opening an attachment on an email. So he's saying attachments. So let's see what attachments he's talking about. So here you can see policies, and then it's not configured or disabled. So this is already there. So we have this option already enabled. So here you can see that attachments, this is in the, let's go and see if, I think this is in the user configuration. I think this is in the user configuration. So let's see from the registry if it is already there. Okay, and paste. So okay, let's continue. Here we will see saved zone information, do not preserve information, should not configured, and this is the default. Okay, so it's already activated. Okay, we don't need to change this setting anyway. The default behavior is to mark attachment or file attachments. So this is the default behavior. It is already, it is enabled by default. You can disable it or leave it not configured. Okay, so attachments manager, do not preserve, it's not configured, so we leave it as it is, or we can disable it. Okay, so let's see here. I need to go to see the description, just a moment. So I need to, he is saying that the policy allows you to manage whether Windows mark file attachments with information about their zone origin, such as restricted internet. This requires NTFS in order to run correctly, and it will fail without notice on FAT32. So this is referring to the local hard disk. So any file downloaded from the internet, from the intranet, or it is saved locally on the machine, it will be marked, okay, with its origin. Anyway, so it's already not configured by default. The Access Credential Manager as trusted caller, user right must not be assigned to any group or account. So we all know that there is something called Credential Manager. Credential Manager, it is a software installed by default in Windows Enterprise, I think, and in Windows Pro, Windows 10 Pro, and Windows 10 Enterprise. I think it was in Windows 7 actually. So this is a program that will save your Windows users and passwords, will save them and will encrypt them. So here is saying that the access, so you can, what you will do, you can give the administrator, or the administrator, he is the only one that can access the Credential Manager and see all of the other users' passwords and usernames. This right should not be assigned to anyone except the administrator. So you can give or delegate this right to a normal user. For example, if you have a user and you need him to access the Credential Manager on any machine, you can do this, but we should not give it to anyone unless he is an administrator. So this is what we see. It must not be assigned to any group or accounts. Only the local administrator is the one that can do this. So he is saying this: access Credential Manager as a trusted caller or a trusted user. Okay, so we need to disable this option. I think I need to see also the time, guys, because I think we have passed 1 hour. Let's see here. I think it is 1 hour, so we can take another one or another recommendation or two, and then we can stop. Okay, so here, access Credential Manager. Okay, we need to take care that there is no groups or users assigned to this or assigned this right. Only the local administrator should do this, or he is the only one that is authorized to access the Credential Manager. Okay, so here we will open the, let's see, user right assignments, and then see access Credential Manager as a trusted caller. We need to make sure that there is no entries in this one. Entries, I mean there is no users or groups. So let's see here, blank. Okay, there is no users, and so we can define it, or we can open it and then leave it blank. Okay, so this is it. Let's go to my default domain policy and see if I have already this kind of option enabled. So if we go to policies and then Windows setting, so this is a global setting, this should be applied to all. If you go to security, I mean servers and workstations, let's see here, it is not defined, so it's already not working. So we didn't enable it and we leave it as it is, so we should not enable this one. The access this computer from network user right must only be assigned to administrators and remote desktop users. So this is one important thing. To access this computer from network, this should be only assigned. So this is, you are telling him that you access this computer from network to certain users. Who the one is responsible to access, or who is the one that authorized to access a computer from network? The domain users and the administrators or local administrators and remote desktop users, the users that are authorized to access the machines remotely. So there are not only two groups. You have the administrators or the local, or you have the local administrators and the domain administrators and the remote desktop users, okay, and the domain users. Okay, so this is not only two, should be more. So let's see how I configure this group policy in my default domain policy. Let's see this. So it's not only administrators and remote desktop users. This is we have another at least two groups. Let's see how it is configured. So the domain application account, he's saying that if you have an account that access applications through the network, this is not a finding. But let's see if I have configured this in my default domain policy. I will go to my default domain policy and let's see this right is given to what. So if you go to policies and then open the Windows setting and then security setting and then local and then user right assignments, and let's see access this computer from network. You can see that we have administrators, backup operators, the users responsible for backup the machine, everyone, and users and ESP. I think this is normal in a domain. Okay, so I think this is the normal ones. Okay, backup operators, everyone. I think everyone should not be should be removed, I think. And users, these are the users in the local users. I think there is something missing here. Anyway, so I think we should remove everyone and you can leave the other one. So this should be revised because it will make a lot of lot of problems if it is not used wisely. He is saying that you should give it to administrators and remote users only, but in real life this is not enough. I think we need to add more. Okay, so you need to test this setting very carefully. So this is the one, I think, but this is the domain. But if we go to the local policy, I think actually also this will be applied to the local policy. If we go to the local policy of the machine, so this is the domain policy. What about the local policy? He's talking, or he's saying this should be applied to the local policy. If we go to the local policy, I think we will see the same setting. If we go to user rights, here we say everyone, yes, the same, everyone, backup operator is the same, so it is applied. So this is normal. We need to have this configured correctly, because it will make a lot of problems. So we need to make sure it is not only the admins or something. Here we will stop at this recommendation: the act as a part of the operating system user right must not be assigned to any group or account, because this user will act as the system. So this should be very, very important, right? Not to be assigned to anyone. So we'll stop at this recommendation. This is the minute number 44, 35 seconds. Hope this video is informative for you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.